He is, without a doubt, one of the most beloved Detroit Red Wings of yesteryear. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about Darren McCarty, a guy that needs no introduction if you were a fan of those old Red Wings teams. He is a four-time Stanley Cup champion who garnered not just a decent amount of points throughout his playing days with the Red Wings, but also an impressive amount of penalty minutes, which essentially tells you all you need to know about the way McCarty played the game and the role that he had on some really stacked, talented Red Wings teams. But never mind that. The fact is, Darren McCarty is still relatively involved in the community. And as somebody who speaks about the Detroit Red Wings from time to time, whenever he says something, fans tend to listen. Which is why, when we take a look at Darren McCarty's recent interview in which he totally goes out and calls out Red Wings captain Dylan Larkin, it makes for some very great theater. Take a look at this. The Detroit News posted this a few days ago. Ex-Red Wing Darren McCarty rips Dylan Larkin for turning his back on the team. This article will be linked in the description if you want to go out and read it. Essentially, we don't need to explain the entire context of what's going on behind the scenes, but I think most of y'all kind of get what's going on here. Dylan Larkin, captain of the Red Wings, has been a Red Wing for a long time. He has been a Red Wings fan even longer, growing up in Michigan and playing for the Wolverines. He was named captain back in 2020, and unfortunately, under his leadership, the Red Wings were never able to make the Stanley Cup playoffs once. They came close a few times, but it didn't end up happening. You can say that Larkin's leadership played a part in whether or not the Red Wings were good enough to make it or not. You could also say Steve Yzerman didn't do a good enough job of actually supporting Larkin and the team itself by making the necessary additions to build a team worthy of making the dance. But after this season, where the Red Wings were one of the best teams at the end of January, start of February, where Larkin won Olympic gold at Milano Cortina, and then came back to a team that just couldn't find any way to string together positive results, you have a very public trade request that has now been put out into the media. And because Larkin has trade protection, he can't just go wherever the Red Wings send him to. He has to give the okay. This is why Darren McCarty got involved, speaking out about Dylan Larkin and calling him out for turning his back on the team. McCarty, the four-time Stanley Cup champion with the Red Wings, spent last weekend at Claude Lemieux's Celebration of Life ceremony for the former Colorado Avalanche star, which, by the way, is such a classy move. We understand the history between McCarty and Lemieux. They had themselves some very entertaining moments on the screen, but to see McCarty spend last weekend with Claude Lemieux's Celebration of Life ceremony, that's a true baller move right there. This week on Woodward Sports, McCarty said he doesn't agree with Larkin's decision to leave the Red Wings after 11 years. He's obviously got his reasons, and we can put blame this and blame that or whatever, but I don't want a guy, no matter if you're the top guy or the bottom guy, if you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. I believe this will end up being one of the best things that will happen to the Red Wings organization. Whew! McCarty coming in with the heat. As much as he was out there with the fists ablazing on the ice, he's coming out there with the words ablazing on the microphone with this interview. The Red Wings trading Larkin will be one of the best things to happen to the organization. Nobody wants a quitter. Nobody wants a guy who doesn't want to be here. No matter how talented you are, no matter if you're the captain. McCarty's telling it like it is. If you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. It's like Margot Robbie talking to Ryan Gosling outside of her Barbie dream house. I don't want you here. I don't want you here. And I think that seems to be the attitude that a lot of Red Wings fans are viewing the situation at this point. Take a look at this. It was posted onto the Our Detroit Red Wings subreddit, the same article that we were just looking at from DetroitNews.com. The top comment says, I probably would feel a lot different about Larkin bailing less than halfway through his contract if he was just a star player on the team instead of the captain. Like it or not, being the captain comes with a certain level of respect and authority. And if your captain is the guy that's asking out, that's when things start to feel a little bit weird. This Wings era is brutal. Why am I here? 937313 says, I can't deny it. It hurts because Larkin's the captain. Growing up, I watched the end of Yzerman and the play of Zetterberg, Datsuk, and Lidstrom. Add in so many other tough players and Osgood's swan song to the end of his career, it feels like so few players want to grind it out for this iteration, which I understand. They've sucked for a while now, and this trade situation is just the cherry on top for what Hockeytown is going through. Brutal. In the same aspect, though, Larkin has been part of the problem with his play on the ice in the last few years in the second half of the season. Exactly, it's not like he's been the Red Wings' golden boy or anything. He's disappeared when the Wings needed him the most, then blamed other people for the team's poor performance, and now he's disappearing again. The feelings on Larkin are not new. It's been brewing here for years. 3 years in a row, he's blown it down the stretch, personally, him blowing it. And now, he's bailing. And people are like, what the heck, man? We've been here for you. You know? And he hasn't been here for us. Let's go back over onto the Detroit News article and continue with what McCarty has to say. He said GM Stevie Y will first have to deal with Larkin's preferred destinations because of his no-trade clause. I automatically think about the guys who persevered, right? McCarty said. The guys in St. Louis, Barkov in Florida, Ovechkin. That's a great example. I don't understand. When you bring up the fact that they haven't talked in a year and there's contention and stuff like this, what do I always say? You're either in or in the way. So you're definitely in the way. McCarty also said he doesn't see Larkin's trade request being resolved anytime soon. It's the whole thing about turning your back on your brothers, turning your back on everything else instead of going through it. You have personal choice, and he's made his choice, but the power is not in his hands. I wouldn't be surprised if Stevie Y waited for the right trade. He's not been known to rush, and he's got the leverage. On Friday night, Larkin posted live video and photo from the FIFA World Cup in LA on his Instagram account for the first time since his trade request. Dozens of celebrities turned out for the US opening game, including Tom Cruise, George Lucas, Bill Gates, Halle Berry, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Team USA beat Paraguay 4-1. Goodness, that's the way the article ends? It talks about Dylan Larkin alongside of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Leonardo DiCaprio? Ay. If I was a worse content creator than I am, then maybe I'd try to force that into the thumbnail somehow. But, I'll leave that for the multiversal evil version of me to do. But either way, Darren McCarty just laid the smack down on Dylan Larkin, and I think there's a good element of truth to the way he speaks about him, especially since McCarty, the guy bled Detroit colors for years. We understand the impact he had in this organization, and so for him as a guy that's still involved in the community and still keeping up with the Red Wings, to see the captain of the team go out there and so publicly demand out in this way, it's gotta feel a little bit of a sting, doesn't it? So with all that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments section. How do you feel about Darren McCarty calling Dylan Larkin's trade request one of the biggest issues that the team has to deal with, and the fact that Larkin, by himself, can be seen as part of the problem? Do you agree with McCarty's assessment? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this British Sign 9, and bye.